Welcome back to the By Design Podcast. I'm your host, Ronnie Knuckles. So today we wanted to kind of pause from our normal episode scheduling and kind of reflect on what we've done to this point in the By Design Podcast, and then talk about what our plans are in the short future and what our plans are when we come back with the podcast. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And also kind of want to talk about Spearcrest Digital. I've talked about them early on in a couple episodes, and we've talked about them maybe periodically throughout. But I want to peel that onion back a little bit again and talk about, what that is and what's going on with that, because Spearcrest Digital ultimately funds the By Design Podcast. So first of all, we started this podcast. Episode 1 dropped on March 31st. So we've been doing it for a little while. It has turned into a lot of work that we didn't expect. Getting guests in and finding the guests, and then even coming up with our own, conversations that we want to talk about, and going through Bible studies in preparation for that. All while running a business, and then all of the hosts on the show also being a part of that business. But we're getting to a point now where we need to really kind of take a break for a month or so. We're on episode 25 right now. We want to take a pause for maybe the next 30 days. Spearcrest Digital is in a growth phase right now. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do strategically, which I kind of want to talk about in this episode. But that's going to take a lot of our attention, and we don't want to be putting out a low-quality podcast. We want our podcast to be representative of our brand. If you follow us, you know that we like to share the gospel, and that, we represent the kingdom. And so we want to make sure that we're putting out high quality content, that we have good guests that are going to have good stories, and that when we bring stuff to the table to talk about on this podcast, it's going to add value to you. And I don't think we've varied from that yet, but with the heavy burden coming up with Spearcrest Digital, I can foresee that happening. And so instead of rushing and recording a bunch of episodes to put out during our break, we just decided to take 30 days off, kind of reevaluate where we're at, reevaluate, our episode strategy and what we want to do with the show, and then bring it back. So we're gonna pause till around September 15th or so. Give ourselves about 30 days to, again, reevaluate. I don't want to go back down that rabbit hole. But in the meantime, I wanted to kind of celebrate some things. We started this podcast not necessarily out of we want to grow it to something huge. We decided to do it because we have a lot of interesting conversations here. We have a Bible study 3 days a week. And it fluctuates. Sometimes we'll have, 5 or 6 people, and sometimes there'll just be 2 or 3 of us. But in those conversations, there was a lot of fruit. And so, we wanted to highlight those, at least 1 or 2 episodes a month, kind of walk through our Bible study. And then we also just have interesting conversations. And so we just decided to pull all of that together and put it out because we enjoy those conversations, and we thought that some of you might as well. And so far, it seems like that has been true. I mean, we've had a lot of listeners. And so I just wanted to highlight a few things. First of all, the By Design Podcast has reached a total of 7 countries around the world. Obviously, the United States, Germany, United Kingdom, Brazil, Colombia, Canada, and Barbados. We have some really steady listeners. So Louisville is where we're based out of. The majority of our listeners are in Louisville. So 40%, according to Buzzsprout, of our listeners are coming from Louisville, Kentucky. The rest are kind of mixed around. We have our second biggest listening city is actually Chicago, Illinois. So we have multiple listeners in Chicago, which is interesting to me.
That's not what I would have expected.
Yeah, me either. Honestly, I worked in Chicago for a while. I maybe know one person that lives there, but it's good that I think it's more than one person. The numbers are pretty decent in Chicago. So that's our number 2 listening city. Northern Virginia, we have quite a few listeners around the Winchester area. Columbus, Ohio, another big city. Little Rock, Arkansas, another big city.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't get me started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you on a roll again in Little Rock? That's the question.
I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it.
Indianapolis, Indiana is another one, which I kind of expect. Indiana's only a couple hours up the road. And then just some honorable mentions here. We have I think one listener who has listened to every episode and downloaded every episode in Germany, in Falkenstein, Germany. Lexington, North Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, and then Shepherdsville, Kentucky, which makes sense. It's 15 miles, or maybe not even 15 miles up the road from here. So
yeah,
we appreciate all of our listeners. It really means a lot that you tune in, and not just listening; these are downloads.
I think I know the one in Shepherdsville.
You may.
I have a lot of friends out there, but my friend Jessica.
Okay. Hey, Jessica.
Hey, I love you.
So, and I think this is probably a multiple. I think also Tim Morton maybe lives out there. So we have some people that are in that area. But I wanted to share those stats mainly as a thank you for listening. Even if we didn't have listeners, we'd probably still do this. By the way, this isn't listener data. This is download data. So I actually don't feel like going into each of the listening apps and determining how many listeners we have to. I don't care right now. I'm not looking for sponsors. It's not something that I'm like super worried about. So we likely have many more listeners around the country, but these are for people that have downloaded it onto their devices. I will say, we've reached, 7 countries and 115 total cities around the world. So the messages that we are saying here and talking about are getting heard. And for those of you that engage with our content on social media or share it, it's really appreciated. I've mentioned this in multiple episodes. Like, we're not ready. We're not running ads. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm doing this for. This isn't a secondary stream of income. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're trying to grow it organically. So anytime you comment on our YouTube channel or on Spotify, or you leave us a rating, or you share a post, it really goes a long way, because that's how we're trying to grow this thing. And our hope is that when we come back from this break, we're able to up our impact in how we leverage this podcast. I feel like we do a pretty good job of like being real. But I feel like sometimes we withhold things that we want to say as to not be too contentious, because we don't want to offend. Mm. And I think that's okay. But also, I feel like sometimes we just need to say what needs saying. And regardless of who it offends, because if it's the truth and the truth hurts a little bit, that's just how it goes.
Noted.
That in mind, with like making sure that our message is loving and centered around Christ. And so we need to do some planning and making sure that we nail that when we come back.
And to get to our general theme that we always get drawn back to, the Bible.
Right.
James talks about, the power of the tongue. Mm-hmm. How, speak truth, but
speak it in love.
Watch your mouth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, something that I think too, we have a lot of contact in the entrepreneurial world. And this will kind of segue into what I wanted to talk about on this episode. Outside of the By Design podcast and, reaching 115 cities and 7 countries around the world, what I really wanted to talk about was Spearcrest Digital, and something that we haven't leveraged yet. So I'm a big fan of having guests in person. For me, I like sitting across the table from someone. I think people let their guard down a little bit more, and they not expose their true selves, but they feel like they can be their real selves when it's a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
Video podcasts, I feel like they're always a little bit more rigid. They're a little bit more professional. Mm-hmm. Which is fine, but that's not really why we started this. We started this to have like real, authentic conversations. With that in mind, though, we have contact with a lot of entrepreneurs around the country. Through Spearcrest Digital alone, we serve close to 50 entrepreneurs, and many of them are high-performing, run really well optimized businesses. Many of them are Christian business owners, so that aligns with who we are. Not that you have to be a Christian business owner to come on the show, but we need to be able to highlight their stories. And when we come back from this break, one of the things that we're going to do is, we're going to start trickling in business leadership, the journey of business ownership into this show. And some of that will be through video podcasting. I think that for those that don't watch YouTube, it's not going to really affect you. The audio might be a little bit different, being that they'll be calling in. But you're going to get to hear stories of business owners and how they started their software companies or their dumpster rental businesses, or whatever it might be, and how they use that to have impact in their communities and really in the world and on their families and the struggles that come with entrepreneurship. I mean, it's incredible some of the struggles that even we've gone through in the last 9 or 10 months, that I think a lot of people maybe wouldn't be able to handle. And entrepreneurs back themselves into a corner where they don't give themselves a choice. There's no plan B for a lot of these people. And so
I think a lot of the guys that we work with are just the real go-getter. Not that every entrepreneur is not a go-getter.
Well, no, most aren't. But
in a sense,
they like to think they are.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the ones that are doing well, seems like they're like the I'll do it myself guy, right? And so then they don't surround themselves with a good team to help them continue to progress and get to that next level.
Right.
Which is, in a sense, part of the place where we come in and can help them with that in some ways. Yeah,
we help them grow to a point where financially it's a burden and a risk no matter what. But we get them, our goal is to help them get to a point where they can kind of hit that next gear. I would say as an entrepreneur, it's a struggle to learn how to let go of the reins. I mean, you've witnessed that in me.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard, dude, because it's like, I'll share my journey a little bit. And I'll get back to, why I want to have these people on. But, I started everything by myself, right? Like, the self-made kind of egotistical, that mantra, right? Like, I did this by myself, which isn't true, but it's by God's grace that it was ever even allowed to happen, right? But when you start something like that and you get it going and it's driving in income. Now, I started both of my businesses while I was working full-time. And I took a huge risk in jumping in when I jumped in. Now, God blessed that. Like, he gave us a really good opportunity to be able to buy us about a month and a half. So when I transitioned out of my position, I guess co-leading like a nonprofit, and jumped into being an entrepreneur full time, we had about 45 days, and we needed to land 5 clients in that 45 days in order for us to be able to continue. Not even to match my salary, but to get close enough to it to where we could survive for a minute. Yeah. In that next 45 days, I think we landed 8 or 9 clients. So God blessed us there. And then Tim and I, by the way, I mean, you may have heard this in another episode, we ran Spearcrest Digital pretty much exclusively by ourselves for a while. And we were praying every day for God to bring people into the business. And so finally some doors opened up, and through a series of, bringing people in and having to move on, because like we'd bring someone in, but the timing wasn't right. We'd bring someone in and we'd lose 3 clients, and then we couldn't afford the guy anymore. And then finally we got to a place where we brought some people in, and Ryan in Dakota. Ryan is our ads manager, so we've rolled out ads as a service now, and Dakota's our client success manager, which he was on a solo episode kind of early on.
Episode 2, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty early. But anyway, during that time, so they've been with us for, Dakota will have been with us for a year in November, and then I think Ryan came on in February, maybe January, February, late January, early February, somewhere in that ballpark. So we're close to a year, having that done, and it's getting to a point now where I have to move on to my next role within the company, and with that comes a lot of challenges because, in my perspective, I started doing this when I was working full time. Then you came on, and then you and I did it for a long period of time. And in order for us to hit the next phase, I have to get out of the way. That's where we're at right now. And so we've been trying to figure out how to do that. And we've been really dialing in our SEO process, which, by the way, guys, this is what Tim does. He's the SEO and quality manager for Spearcrest Digital.
Hey, how you doing?
He was the operations manager for Sergeant Junket for a while, and then did Spearcrest as well. And we brought all of our SEO and quality in-house. We've been accused of outsourcing just in the last 2 weeks that all of our work is outsourced.
Move on.
Yeah, I can't. But we don't. Everything's done here in the United States by Tim himself. That mixed with Dakota handling clients, because most clients come to us through social media. So they'll message me on Facebook. Sometimes they'll message the business, but majority of them message us on Facebook. And then we'll get through this process and they want to talk directly with me, which, I don't mind. I text people back still, or, or message them on Facebook or whatever. But in order for us to scale and grow, I have to get out of the way. I got to stop being the guy. And so we're trying to optimize our system in such a way that Dakota's kind of filling that gap. And he's doing a really good job. And most clients are really cool with that. Mm-hmm. That's been hard for me, though, because that's what I did. And these other entrepreneurs are in this same journey. They got to figure out how to get themselves off the truck. You need money to do that. Then they got to figure out who's going to handle the office stuff. You need money to do that. Mm-hmm. And so we try to come in and fill the money gap by bringing in leads. But I think our next phase of growth is really going to come into, I don't want to be one of these gurus, these coaching gurus, but we need to have a quasi-coaching segment of what we do until people get to a certain point.
Not because we think we're some type of guru, like you said, but there's an obvious need for that.
Yeah, I think there's just, let me give you an example. So we'll have clients that will come on and they will experience growth. Now, it takes time, right? Especially if you're like an SEO client. It's going to take you, I say typically between 6 months and 12 months, you'll notice the difference, right? Like, we'll be paying for ourselves most of the time. Now, if you're not doing what you need to be doing, like you're not posting on social media, you're not going out and growing your business, you're not joining chambers of commerce, you're not doing what you need to do, that's going to take a while. It's a partnership. It's not that we do everything for you. Mm-hmm. But they get to this place where they're making money finally. And then they'll go out without really talking to us, because it's not our responsibility. And then they'll go buy 15 or 20 new dumpsters, right? Mm-hmm. Every can, I've had this literal conversation at least 5 times in the last 6 months. Every can I've got is rented out. We need more cans. And I'm like, all right, dude, well, figure that out. And then they'll overbuy, right? They'll buy 20 cans.
Yeah.
And then a month later, they'll say...
And when they needed 5.
Yeah, right. Or less even, And then a month later, they'll say, man, it's just, this is really expensive. I'm having to pay for these new cans. We're not able to rent them all out. And we have to end our service with you. We're just slow. And I'm like, well, hold on. You just told me last month that every can you had was rented out. Then you bought 20 cans because you were busy enough to obviously expand your equipment. And now you're telling me that you're unable to rent all that equipment out. That doesn't equate to you being slow. It just equates to you overbought. But now you're going to cut off the organization that helped you get to a point where you were sold out of cans. And you don't just get to number 1 on Google and stay there. That's not how it works. Your competitors are trying to knock you off the mountain.
Yeah.
Right? And so over time, these people will slip unless they hire another quality agency, which I've seen happen too, and that's completely fine. Sometimes other agencies are a better fit. They have a fresh, maybe a different strategy that works, and I'm not, opposed to that. But most of the time they don't. They think that they can just stay on the mountain. And
they want to hire a cheaper agency.
Or they want to hire an agency that charges them $500.
Right.
And using black hat tricks to do like click-through rate manipulation on Google business profiles to show heat maps that look really good but really aren't.
What?
I've seen that.
No way.
This last week, saw that. But anyway,
that's insane. Who would do that?
Nobody, dude. Everybody's on the up and up in the marketing world. Trust me, especially on Fiverr. But anyway, I say that to say we need to have some kind of coaching segment. And not so that we can be like, hey, bro, don't buy new cans because then you won't be able to afford us. But to be able to go, hey, have you strategically thought through this and looked into the future at what happens when you buy 20 cans and then all of a sudden it's December? Can you add 5 cans in for now and get through the end of the summer? Because cold season's going to happen most parts of the country. Things are going to slow down a little bit. You have your slow periods in July and August where families are getting ready for school and kind of these natural slowdowns. But can you weather those storms and maintain your high revenue margin we need to be able to come in and go, let's evaluate where you're at, and then we'll give you our strategic plan. We don't have the ability to do that right now because I am engaged in sales, mostly sales at this point, and branding, which I enjoy the branding part. And I don't mind the sales part either, but we need to fill those gaps. And so that's where I think having other entrepreneurs onto the show to kind of bring it back to that, to hear their stories of how they've overcome these things. One, we can learn from that. And two, our listeners can learn from that. And that's real value. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want this show to be, bringing value, whether it is through our faith or through our connections in the business world or experiences that we've gone through ourselves. I want to bring value to people so that they can take action in their own. Now, that's the tricky part. You got to take action. If you hear something that's valuable or learn something that's valuable, you got to be the one that takes action. And I'll just be honest, most people don't. They like the thought of it. This kind of goes back to the entrepreneurs that you see. You kind of have to be that go-getter type. I think a lot of entrepreneurs think they're the go-getter type, right? They like to think that. They listen to a lot of motivational podcasts and read a lot of motivational. And look, I'm that guy. I read not motivational, but like self-help books. And I like Andy Frisella. I used to really listen to him a lot. I mean, we got a lot of traction off of using his strategies, kind of, burning the ships and letting it all fly and going hard. I mean, that's what got us a lot of traction. One direction. But here's the thing. Force. We took the action. And I talk with a lot of business owners. And we'll go through a plan. Like, here's what we're going to do for you, man. We're going to do your entire off-page SEO strategy. We're going to manage your Google business profile, blah, blah, blah. But here's what you have to do to get traction. And we'll check in on them 30 days later, and they haven't posted on social media. They haven't gotten one single review. But when you talk to them, they give you the perception that they are the go-getter type. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's a misconception that just doing the work and driving the truck and delivering the dumpster is not going and getting it. There's another layer you have to get to. Let's dig into the if you want to. Let's dig into. Yeah, I'm cool. Let's dig into the because we say what you just said. The go-getter, what you have to do. Yeah. Groups and stuff. What else does that look like? Because we have that document that we share, right? The organic playbook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's got all this. It's got everything in there, step by step, detailed. Yeah. But a lot of people don't know that even exists, or don't have one, or forgot that we sent them one, or something. Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah. So, or they don't even open it when we send it to them. Yeah. And then they forget, and then. Yeah. Anyways, I feel like that might be helpful. Maybe, like if we just break that down, because like I feel like the people that come off as go-getters can truly be. That's why they come off that way. Yeah. But it's the fog of confusion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I've felt that in the early days when you're taking on a bunch of different roles and you have to do a bunch of different things. Well, you get overwhelmed. It's like there's all you can go down any of these 100 paths, but you can't go down all of them at the same time. And then so it's a fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, it's the fog of war almost. Yeah, like, So here, what I really think I've seen this in myself. By the way, I see it in business owners a lot. What I think the true issue is not whether or not they don't have the desire to be a go-getter, because I think a lot of these people really do have that desire. Most people, I don't know. I couldn't give you a percentage, but I would say they want to be they want this business to be successful. I think also the ones that do well aren't so focused on the money. They're more focused on the freedom that it brings, or like what their overarching goals are, not the monetary, the money in your account so you can go buy a new Lincoln Navigator or whatever. Like that's not their sole focus for the one. Now they're conscious of their money. They're smart with their money. They know what every dollar is doing. So I'm not saying that, but that's not they're not they don't have their binoculars on the money. So I'll say that, because the people that say that they are go-getters and aren't are typically the ones that are just focused on the money, not focused on the quality of service, actually making an impact, looking at how do I expand my business so that I can bring in more workers and have a community impact and pay my workers well and give them benefits. Like, those are the people they're really thinking the whole thing through. And let me just say this too. If you make the decision to become a business owner, now, if your goal is to make some side money and do it part-time, I'm not talking to you. Not because you're irrelevant, but just because this next piece won't really apply to you. If your goal is to work for yourself, and to grow a business to a point where you can have generational impact on your family, where you can have impact on your community and the people that work for your business, where you can have impact through giving back through your business, this message is for you. And by the way, we are still in the midst of that journey. Okay, so I'm not at the top of the mountain talking down to you. I'm just sharing my experience and what I've seen in business owners and what I've seen work for us. You have to understand that there's going to be a season where you're going to have to work way harder than you thought you'd have to work. You hear it on the podcasts and in the books you read a lot, like, you have to be the hard worker. You got to work hard. But you don't really understand what that means until you do it, until you have to do it, right? And what I see a lot of the times is all these things start flooding in as a business owner as you start to grow. You got to worry about the books and the jobs and the calls and the marketing and the whatever. Maybe even running the truck, running the cans. For me, that would look like handling client calls or doing the sales, right? And you can get this fog, but you have to understand that it's your responsibility to execute everything. And that's going to mean a lot of 2 a.m., 3 a.m. nights for you to do it the right way. And what I didn't do for a long time was lean on God for that strength. I just did it under my own strength. It's going to require, there's a book called It Takes What It Takes. It just takes what it takes. And if you get to a point where all these things are bearing down on you, and then your response is to not do anything or to do very little because you're just not sure where to start, you're going to have a really bad time. You're going to have a really, really bad time. Because you have to learn to cut through the noise. And a true go-getter is someone who has the vision enough to know, all right, I've got 15 things going on. Here's my top 3 things I need to get done that are going to move the needle. You pick those top 3 things, you knock those top 3 things out, you bring the next top 3 things up, and you do it in a sequence. And if it takes you till 3 a.m. to get that done, well, then that's just what it takes. But that's not what a lot of people do. They go, well, I'm at $10,000 a month in gross revenue. I want to get to $30,000 a month in gross revenue. I'm going to hire a marketing agency for $1,500 a month, and they're going to handle everything, and then I'm just going to worry about the trucks. Dude, that's not how it works. First of all, at $10,000 a month in gross revenue, you're not ready to hire a marketing agency. You need to be somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 a month before you even consider that. And that alienates a lot of potential business for us, but that's where you need to be. You can get yourself to 15 or 20 grand a month just on your own and really not even pushing that hard. And if you can't, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Again, this goes into where we need to be able to step in and coach, right?
Yeah.
But I say all of that to say, like, I struggle or have struggled at times because I feel like I'm a pretty driven person. I feel like God has blessed me with that, and something that even though I'm driven and I'm able to do the work, something that I struggle with currently is knowing when to delegate and knowing when to trust God and knowing when to bring someone in and train them and trust that God is going to help them fulfill the role if they're the right person, right?
Yeah.
That's my current struggle. But I think that there are seasons and stages. And the first stage is you got to be the guy. You got to be the guy or the woman that does everything. That does it all for a season. But you have to also have enough foresight to know that season has to end at some point, and you got to know when to start getting out of the way. I know that was a big, long spiel there, but...
No, it's good. You know what your problem is, man? something maybe that I don't know if you've thought of this or not, but accepting beforehand, like I gotta bring people in. Mistakes are going to be made.
Yeah. Well, that's tough.
Now we have systems in place that keep devastating mistakes from being made.
Sure.
So it's all, any mistake that's made is a minor mistake.
Yeah, mitigated.
And can be resolved in less than an hour, typically. But yeah, I think if you acknowledge that ahead of time,
mm-hmm.
I think that would help you to sort of, like you said, let go of the rope a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately the best thing for the company and our clients,
mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to be like micromanaging and
right.
getting in the way of people organically learning how to do their job.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough transition to be able to kind of find that balance, because in that I've never been like a micromanaging leader. So before I even owned a business, I was a industrial maintenance technician and then an engineering manager. And as an engineering manager, I kind of ran a building. I had multiple technicians underneath me. At one point, I had like 25. And I was almost a little too not micromanaging. You know what I mean? Where like I let people kind of just do whatever. Not do whatever, but I trusted people to do what they did. And
figure it out.
Yeah, but that got me into some... There's a balance, though, between micromanaging and letting people learn organically. Because, especially as a business owner, there's a lot more on the line. So... like in a business like that where I'm managing a building, this is for a multi-billion-dollar organization. Mm-hmm. If I have a guy not doing what he should be doing or making mistakes consistently, they can eat that, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not that huge of a deal. They're a billion-dollar organization. Not us, right? So like if we make continual mistakes, that eats into our bottom line very quickly, and we don't have a lot of, we're not doing terrible, but we don't have a lot of reserve to eat that for a long period of time. Mm. And there's an added pressure there where it's like, yeah, you need to let people learn, but also it's your responsibility as a business owner to make sure they learn quickly. And so that's the tricky part, because a big organization can allow, and if you're a leader in an organization like that, you can allow for more time. Like you can give your guy 6 months to figure it out. We can't do that. We need, like, within a month, you got to have it figured out, because we have to be able to, and that allows us to pivot quicker, and it's almost a competitive advantage where our team, because we are small, we can make changes very quickly, and we can implement changes very quickly. Mm. My responsibility is to make sure that the team understands the importance of changes, right? Because I think that's where sometimes I miss the mark. So like I'll just say things, like I'll say, we need to start doing this, right? Or let's test this, right? And see what happens. Mm. So in your mind, you're just like, oh, we're just going to test this thing. But in my mind, I'm like, this is highly important. We need to test this thing because I want to roll it out. Well, I don't really communicate that in that way. So it's more of a communication issue than it is, because I understand people are going to make mistakes. And like you said, we have systems and processes in place to where, like, if a mistake is made, it's not a huge deal, right? We can fix that. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, our clients wouldn't even notice it. Like I can't name a time where they have ever, like, really noticed it, because we find it ahead of time, fix it, make sure everything's good. Mm-hmm. And it's rare that a mistake happens, I think, at this point. But
right,
I think the issue comes, and this is a lesson for business owners, like when you do start to bring team in, making sure that you communicate the right way, so that if there's something that you want to roll out and you think it's important, you need to make sure that whoever you're communicating that to understands the importance of it. And not just that you think it's important, the why behind the reason it's important. So, because that, like for you, for example, so let's just use what we talked about yesterday with the SEO strategy. Yeah. So I don't want to get too much into it, because what we do is proprietary. And not that I mind sharing what we do overall, but I want to do some things that other agencies don't do. And this particular thing that we were talking about yesterday is one of those things. It's important that we implement it, because it's going to move the needle for our clients at a much higher rate than some of these other agencies, because it's it's a little bit more difficult and in depth than a lot of these agencies want to go, right? You naturally, because of the process that we went through, understand the importance of it. And so we went through it together. Now that we went through it together, it's my responsibility to step back and let you figure that out, right? Because if I'm like, well, you need to do, and I have my hand on everything, then you're never going to really know how to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then that's going to stifle not just you, but the company, because then it's going to take twice as long to get to the solution. So trusting that you'll figure it out is one thing, but making sure that it's communicated well to your team is another. And that's where I think, for me, that's a really big growth strategy. And you're not the only person that I've done that to. Like, I'll do that to Dakota when it comes to client success. Like, hey, man, we need to get this over to XYZ client. And he'll do that, but he might not do it that day, right? Because we've got other things going on. And so it might take a day or two for him to get that off to them. That's not his fault. I didn't tell him it was a priority. I just said, hey, we need to get this over to them.
Yeah.
What I didn't tell him was, hey, this client specifically messaged me and asked me for this today. Can we shift gears for a second, get this completed for them, and get it over to them?
Yeah.
So then
that'd be great.
You know what I mean? But in my mind,
like, over communicate that, because over communication is going to be better than under communication every time.
But I think that the challenge from a business owner's perspective is you're juggling 100 things, right?
Yeah.
And so you just want to get the message out before it leaves your brain. Like, you got this guy messages you out of nowhere, he needs a report or whatever. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so you're just like, hey, get this message out to this guy, because you've got 1,000 other things going on. But it's an excuse for me to continue to do that when it causes problems, because I'm getting frustrated. Like, bro, why didn't you get that over to them? And then, and I'm not saying that this is a common problem, but he's like,
well, no, I've said that to you.
Yeah, but then he's like, well, you didn't tell me it needed to be out today.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, my bad. It needs to be out today. Right. But then there's 3 hours have passed and it's 5 o'clock and we're ready to go home. But that's not his fault. Right.
Yeah.
It's an excuse as a business owner for me to not take the time to communicate the priority level in which things are going on, right? Because I can go, well, I'm just so busy, dude. I just needed to get that message out. You should know, right? Yeah. Easy to do that. But it's not that. That's that.
Just add in number one priority.
Well, here's a lesson to be learned, and something like we do. I think we've done a really good job of building out our systems. So maybe let's peel the onion back on this lesson just live on the show.
Yeah.
Something that we are getting to a point now, that we've discussed this before, we have a lot of clients. And so a lot of requests come in daily. Usually we'll start the day, even if it's a clean slate day. And by the end of the day, we're being pulled 100 different directions. And it's usually just small, hey, dude, can I call you real quick? Got a question or whatever. But that turns into an 8-hour day. Now it's going to require almost another department that will probably be ran by me and Dakota for a while, right? Just to be honest.
Yeah.
But the system will be built.
Department.
The system will be built, though.
Yeah.
And then when the system is built and we have the ability to, we can fulfill that role. So like getting these systems in place and growing, you hit these seasons of growth. And it'll be a constant learning journey. I think getting back to the main point, as an entrepreneur, you got to also recognize that you ain't got it all figured out. And I think one thing that, even though, I might struggle with understanding that people are going to make mistakes because I didn't communicate with them the importance of figuring out whatever it is, right? Sure, like we're all going to have our own struggles. Like, I don't want to call our guys out on the show here, but like everybody's got their own unique challenge, right? Mine happens to be that. And honestly, dude, I'm like that at home too. Like I'll say something to Laura, or Laura will say something to me, and I don't compute the priority level on her end, or I don't, communicate to her the priority level for whatever that's something that I internally in my mind I know, but I just fail to communicate it. So it's not like just here. That's just kind of part of who I am, which is an area that I need to grow in. And so, But I think as an entrepreneur, you also have to realize you've done all the work. You've gotten to wherever you're at in your business, and you think you got it all figured out. But to get to the next level, you got to realize that you have very little figured out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the people miss the mark a lot. Like you're good enough and you've worked hard enough to get to this point. Well, the next phase doesn't necessarily require that same level of work, physical work. It requires you to be strategic, to learn how to communicate, to learn how to lead well, to learn how to delegate and get out of the way, to learn how to maintain your current income level for a minute while you grow your team, or even take a reduction in income level for a minute while you grow your team. Because cash flows are going to be up and down, especially in a service-based businesses. That then becomes your responsibility. And so the work ethic, the go-getter mindset can greatly benefit you there. It can really benefit you there because then it goes from you being the go-getter to the one that instills the go-getter in the people in your organization. But you have to be able to recognize that. You've got to become a visionary. And you've got to have people on your team around you that help you build the vision. It can't just be your vision, right? Mm-hmm. A good example of this is the missions fund that we have a dream for at some point. Mm-hmm. You know, I knew that I wanted to give back through the business somehow, and it wasn't clear. But then you brought that up, like, hey, dude, we could do a mission fund. We could, we could go and have direct impact in Uganda, just as an example.
Spearcrest Christian Church.
Yeah, whatever. Not that that's what I'm after, but I'm saying, but I have people on the team now that can help build the vision. However, it's my responsibility to make sure that we are tracking to a point where that vision becomes a reality. Mm-hmm. And if I'm getting in the way, if I'm not willing to go, well, we need a fulfillment department. And ads is a good example of this. I didn't want to roll out ads for a long time. I was very resistant to it because I want to do things the right way. And I just I don't know, man. Not that I thought that we wouldn't do it the right way. I just knew it would be a burden. And if we made mistakes early on for our clients, it was going to really bite us in the butt. It would hurt our reputation. But then I just got to a point where, you guys, the team, were like, let's just do this. And so finally I got out of the way and I was like, all right, man, let's just do it. Mm-hmm. And we did. And we've been successful and clients are getting good results. And so, but that's a testament to, as an entrepreneur, you're clinging to this control, not like in a weird controlling way, but like oh my God, this could hurt the reputation that I've spent all these nights sacrificing to build. Yeah. Anyway, I know I kind of went on a tangent there, man, but
no, it's good.
But that's the point. I want to get to a place in Spearcrest where we can share these lessons internally for our clients, but then also through the By Design podcast, invite guests on who have experienced similar things in different scenarios that they can share, and so that listeners can apply these things to their lives. Mm-hmm. Because these situations apply to not just business owners, but to church leaders and to, you're a leader within an organization. Maybe you're a leader within that multi-billion-dollar or million-dollar organization, and you have a team, and you need to learn not to over-micromanage while learning how to delegate. And so I want to give value to a point from our show where it's actionable. Right? It's not just our opinion on a thing or how we feel about a thing. We give actionable insight into how people have gotten to wherever they are, and then the people listening can use that to better their lives and better themselves. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And I think it would be good for us to figure out how to properly communicate the application of like business growth principles to just personal growth.
Yeah.
Because it's all the same, really.
Yeah.
You're just using different terms and talking about money and management and quality of service in a business, where then in your family, you're kind of still talking about that.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
You got to manage your money well as a family. You got to serve your family well. That's your quality of service as a man or woman or child or whatever.
Right. Right.
But as an entrepreneur, going back a little bit to what you were talking about with communicating the urgency sometimes falls through the cracks, and then sharing the vision or picking up on that. Well, as an entrepreneur, which is what I feel like we're completely made up of, pretty much, to the opposite end of that, it's kind of our responsibility to learn those things about you, right? Because you're the entrepreneur of Spearcrest here, So it's it should be, and I'm kind of just learning this as we're speaking in this conversation right now,
or voicing it maybe for the first time.
Yeah. It's our responsibility to learn that if and when you send us things like that, it's like a stop what you're doing and take care of this real quick.
Maybe. Yes.
And unless it's obviously not.
Right, but see, then it goes, we don't have a system in place. And
right.
in order for us to become scalable, which is the ultimate goal, system in place. So when this starts to become a bottleneck for us, it becomes an issue where something that could have gotten done within 5 hours takes 24. Minor, even if it's a minor situation.
Yeah.
That completely not derails, but it really damages our optimization, and it's due to the fact that I didn't set the vision for, or maybe even you or Dakota or another team member said, hey, we need to do like a fulfillment or a support department, which has actually been said before here. It's my responsibility to then take that, evaluate it, create a vision for it, and then give my plan for execution and then hand it off to the team to execute the plan. So that's where I think entrepreneurs and at least that are in the same similar phase in their business that we are in have to be able to recognize, like, if a team member says it, there might be a need for it. You need to maybe investigate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Or if it's happened, it's been a problem before and it causes some kind of, not really conflict, but frustration, like between you going, well, bro, you didn't tell me it was that important, and me going, dude, you should just know. You should just know it's important. It's coming from me. Yeah. Without that, like just that uncommunicated expectation, if it has caused frustration before, then it's going to cause more frustration as we scale. And so even if one of you guys don't bring it to my attention, it's my responsibility to go, hey, I've noticed this is an issue. What do you guys think we should do to fix it? Well, maybe we should start a support department and do a prioritization. You know what I mean? Boom. Not that it's immediately going to solve the problem, but it will at least mitigate things that should take 5 hours taking 24. You know what I'm saying? I know those are like some real technical things, but that's just an example that I'm trying to give from an entrepreneurial perspective. Like, you got to get out of the way, man. And that's where I'm at, learning how to get out of the way, learning how to let go of the reins, but also trying to make sure that we not just meet our standard, but drastically improve what we could be doing. Because we could improve always. Yeah. Especially right now, dude. Like, it's been a weird year. Just for those listening, in November of last year, we had our biggest, December and January were the biggest months for the company ever. We were on pace to do well over $1 million in revenue. So we were going to become $1 million business at this point. Easily. My thought process was in 2025, we might even hit multi-millions of dollars. That's where I thought. And I'm sharing this. This is kind of a confidential thing, but I want to share it because it kind of paints the picture. So we're on a high, dude. We're on a high. And I think we kind of let go of the reins a little bit. And not that we were celebrating the win every day. We just thought, oh, we've got this figured out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're good. Well, then the wheels came off the train, baby. We lost 4 of our biggest clients in a span of 2 weeks. And it got nasty, real nasty. And we were doing what we said we would do, right? Like, we weren't doing anything malicious. It was just a weird situation. And so we went from tracking to maybe potentially multi-millions of dollars to like barely meeting 2025 started to look like, well, maybe we'll match what we did in 2024, it was rough there for a while. It was like, oh, I'm going to have to like lay people off. There was a month or so there where I thought it's just going to be me for a minute. I really thought that. I thought we were going to just keep declining. But then God kind of stepped in and he used those huge losses. So just to imagine, and those of you that are entrepreneurs that have made it this far in the show that are listening, you understand how this goes. This ain't the first time this has happened, but you get these really, really high highs in entrepreneurship, and they're not often, right? Like those are the exception, not the rule. But then we just straight nosedived off a roller coaster and got back to less than where we were before we even hit the high. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But God stepped in, and what he used that for was to teach us where we're lagging, right? Like, It wasn't revealed to us until that happened to go, what are we doing wrong? First of all, we weren't communicating well. Second of all, we didn't set the expectations for the clients out of the gate and tell them like, hey, dude, you can't sit on your butt and expect us to save your business. Like we would allude to that, but we wouldn't just say it. Now we just say it. Go find somebody else if that's what you want to do. This ain't going to work for you. We weren't hyper-focused on constantly improving our process. We had a process in place, and we just relied on that process and thought that process would work. Well, guess what? AI rolled out, and things started to change, and algorithms started to prioritize different things. And instead of us being on top of it and making, quick changes like we're doing now, we weren't. We were just relying on what had worked in 2024 and expected it to translate into 2025. And that not downfall, but that huge nosedive really woke us up to go, our clients deserve better. We're not cheap. We are not a cheap agency. We're not the most expensive agency either, but they are paying a price with the expectation that they are going to get results. Now, we were still doing what we said we would do in those moments. We weren't not doing anything. I'm not saying that. But what we weren't doing was testing in the back end, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. What, in 2025 with the rollout of AI, what is going to move the needle? So at that point, and this is still relatively early on. I mean, this was our high was in January and our low was in March, so it was just a few months later, which took a toll on me mentally and I mean, spiritually in some ways. But now, we're in August and we're back on the climb. And we're bringing in a lot of clients. We rolled out new services, and people are really starting to see growth in their businesses because we are flexible and adaptable, and we know that we're never going to let that happen again as a company. And so, as an entrepreneur, you've also got to be super resilient, because it would have been very easy for me, and I give myself no plan B. Thankfully, if I had a plan B, I probably would have pulled that plan B out right then. I probably would have said, I'll just go back to what I was doing. I'll bring in $15,000 a month. I'll do it by myself, and I'll go get a full-time job somewhere. I mean, it was bad. But because I didn't give myself a plan B, and I trusted that God was doing this for a reason, and I had guys like you in here going, hey, this is happening for a reason. God's letting this happen for a reason. God blessed us through that. He got us through it. Our clients that trusted us stuck with us. Now they're crushing it. And now we're able to grow and move our services forward confidently. Confidently say, this is what you're going to get. We know it works. Here's an example. And then our clients can experience that fruit. And again, I'm not saying that we weren't doing those things. We were just comfortable.
Well, I think too, we got out of focus on the main goal.
Right. Seeking first his kingdom.
Yeah. And so I think we're clinging for dear life to these biblical business principles now. Not because of, or not so that we can be blessed, but because he's good.
Right.
But there are also promises in the Bible. The Lord blesses those who seek him diligently, not just part-time in the back of your mind.
Right.
Diligently seek first the kingdom of God. That's more so talking about providing necessities. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you.
Right, what you need.
What you need, right.
Yeah, it can be twisted into like a prosperity gospel thing.
Yes.
And that's not what our intent is.
That's not what this is.
No.
But our God is a prosperous God. He has good plans for us.
Right.
Okay. And then you were talking earlier too. I just want to mention this briefly about, you said, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to work harder than you ever imagined you would have to work.
Yeah.
To make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is a biblical principle as well.
Mm-hmm.
In Colossians, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Ephesians, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people.
Mm-hmm.
So these are commandments. Or, your salvation isn't dependent on doing your job well.
If Spirit Crest is struggling, buddy, I'm going to hell. Right. No, yeah, that's.
But
yeah,
these are things that. This is a way as a business owner that you can worship God.
Sure.
You can worship God through doing everything you do to the absolute best that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we just talked about that recently.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, and I'll tell you this too. As a business owner, I think you have a unique understanding of going through valleys and mountaintops and learning how to worship God in both seasons. And in the valley, it looks like it's not easy, but in the moment, it looks like, okay, what lesson is there to be learned here? I trust God, right? And that's scary anyway, to put your full trust in God.
Well, that's James. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Count it all joy when you face trials of various kinds.
Right.
All
but
joy.
Learning how to do that.
Yeah.
Learning how to do that. Letting the Spirit guide you to a point where you can go, okay, you allowed me to get to that high mountaintop. And then 3 months later, you let me get down into the valley, deep into it. Why? Why did you let that happen? Why didn't you just let me stay on the mountaintop for a minute and maybe go through some ridges here and there?
It's like, I believed in you up there.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I was like, oh, he's blessing what we're doing. Yeah. And then we hit that valley, dude. And it's not that I didn't think he was not blessing us. I thought, at first, I just didn't even have time to think, to be completely honest. But then after a few days, I started thinking, okay, what are we doing? Why is he letting this happen? What lesson are we missing that we need to learn? And we came to the table and figured it out. And once we got it figured out, and then we just trusted him through it, and we just said, we're just going to do our thing. We're good, dude. We were good. He got us through that.
It was literally like, if you want this to happen, make it happen.
Those were our prayers.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying. Hey, if you don't want this to happen, that's fine. We'll continue to go into the valley until we realize it enough to go, all right, this isn't going to work.
We trust you. It'll be fine.
But if you want it to happen, we need you here. And that's why he did that. He said, okay, you say with your mouth that you trust me, but I'm going to let you fall off that hill, baby.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to have to. Yeah. And that's what we did as an organization. Everybody came into it and they were like, all right, well, we're just going to trust it. Because, dude, I'm telling you, I was this close to going, we're going to have to lay everybody off.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where payroll was coming up and a dude was 8 days late on his invoice, and then, he'd pay the day before, and then we'd have enough to make payroll. And it's like, that was just him going, all right, I'm going to let you struggle here for a minute till you figure out what you got to do.
Yeah.
And then I think he revealed that to us through conversations.
Well, look, man, this is just the Bible.
Yeah.
Also in James.
James is the GOAT, by the way.
Dude, it's so good.
It's like when you read it, you're like, why is this so simple?
Yeah. Count it all joy when you face trials of various kinds.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember exactly word for word, but basically let patience have her good and perfect work. And it's going to test your faith and prove it. Like gold is proven through the fire.
Yeah.
It makes that comparison.
And also, is it the silver refiner? Refining of silver, right?
Gold.
Okay. There's another one talking about refining of silver, by the way. Go look that up, and how they refine silver. You ever heard that?
I think it's the similar process of gold.
I don't know, but I can tell you, like, a silver refiner's fire is, just real quick, I heard this actually this morning on a podcast or maybe an Instagram reel. We got to go. I got to get on a call in just a second. But,
sure.
But real quick, God talks about refining us as Christians as the silver refiner's fire. And so when you're refining silver, you can't, it can't be on the edge of the fire. It has to be in the middle of the fire. So it's got to be in the the most intense heat.
Yes.
And then I guess in the story, one of the persons said, well, how do you know it's refined? And then the guy said, well, you can see your reflection in the silver. Like it's,
Ooh.
it's so clear.
Come on.
So that is what you as a business owner, especially a Christian business owner, can expect to be refined through that fire. And I don't know the scripture. So look it up. It does talk about a silver, a refiner's fire, or refining you like silver, or something to that effect. But anyway, that's a perfect picture of what God's going to allow you to do. He's going to allow you to hit that mountaintop and hit the valley so that you're being refined. Because to your point, what we do and how we shine God's light is affected in how what kind of service we provide. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't have been refined to a point if we didn't get into a valley and have to figure out what works.
Yeah. If I may.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, that's all I need. Malachi 3, if you want to look at that silver refiners verse there. Also, in these processes, the refiner is watching closely and is there, and he's not outside of the heat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's right there next to you.
Right.
And also,
he's the silver refiner.
It's such a process. Okay, you're in the fire, being heated up, and then when you come out of the fire, you're getting hammered on. Okay, what can be shaken will be, and he's watching that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All pain and suffering is not just from the enemy. It is for your refining.
Sure.
Clearly.
Well, look at Job.
Yeah.
And then he restores him completely in the end. We could go down that rabbit hole for a long time.
Yeah,
and I don't want to end the show. I don't want to end the show, but here's where I'm at. I wanted to let everybody know we are going to take a break for about a little over 30 days. So September 15th, we'll plan on dropping an episode that day. In the meantime, please leave us a rating if you so choose. We will be dropping clips, by the way, of most recent episodes. We just had Whitney Lanham on, which was an extremely, extremely good episode. I encourage you to go check that out if you haven't. But drop us a review. Go share some clips for us. Give us some feedback. Questions at bydesignshow.com. You can send in your feedback or your questions, or maybe you have something you'd like us to talk about. We will be bringing in more entrepreneurs when we come back, so just know that's coming. Again, we greatly appreciate you guys. I think you may get some value out of this episode. But be patient with us. Follow us on social media. We'll keep you guys up to speed and be sharing some clips. Spearcrest Digital is we're at a point now where we're growing. If you haven't heard of iCans, we are getting ready to become a partner today with them officially as their SEO provider. So if you're a dumpster rental company and you need a booking software or SEO, Spearcrest Digital along with iCans have just announced our partnership by the time you're hearing this. And also don't forget to check out the Dumpster Expo in Fort Worth, Texas coming up in November. It's going to be an awesome event. We went last year, dude, and it was really incredible. And this year I think it's going to be better. There's a really good keynote speaker coming in, a lot of good knowledge that will be shared there. So
can't say who it is.
I can't remember the Muscle. The Muscle is who it is. Keenan, I think is his first name. You can, I think on Instagram he is the Muscle. He's really, really good. He's a business coach. Anyway, go check him out. Guys, that's it. We will see you in 30 days. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Thank you for what you've done so far in downloading and sharing and listening to the episode. We'll see you in September.